claims that Meghan Markle's ex-husband, Trevor Engelson, got back in contact with the fake Duchess after the discovery of a so-called sex diary.
There was an alleged book of past lovers that...
You won't say it, I'll say it. Sex diary.
Before the lifestyle brand blew up, before Netflix cameras started rolling, before the Oprah sit-down, the royal wedding spectacle, and all those polished humanitarian speeches, there was something way more low-key. A storage unit sitting in Los Angeles, and inside that unit, a diary. Not just any diary, but one packed with details, names, dates, every little moment carefully written down, step by step. And here's where it gets wild. The person who found it wasn't Meghan. It was her ex-husband, the same man she ended things with over a text, the same one who got the engagement ring mailed back like it was just another package. That's the real starting point of this story. But it doesn't stop there, not even close. Because in that same week, another diary suddenly popped up.
There's also another diary, Dan. This is not the only one from Trevor, and this other person could make a lot of money.
And then things got even louder when a Jordanian ambassador, someone who supposedly knows more than most, started stirring up serious noise online. The Met Gala sent out invitations, and somehow, nothing showed up for Montecito. At the same time, Meghan was reportedly trying to sell loose flowers for $290, which had people seriously confused. What a chaotic week. Just stay with this for a second. Back when Meghan left Los Angeles to move to London for Harry, she asked a friend to clear out her storage unit. Sounds simple, right? Nothing unusual about that, except what that friend found inside was far from normal. Sitting there was a diary, personal, detailed, and carefully written, a full record of her past relationships with names, timelines, and moments all laid out. And yes, it was written in her own handwriting, that neat calligraphy-style cursive people always talk about, the kind of writing that instantly stands out. Now imagine holding something like that, something any tabloid would see as a massive scoop. But instead of calling Meghan, the friend reached out to Trevor Engelson, her ex-husband, the same man who had been completely cut out of her life, to the point where people around him reportedly avoided even saying her name because of how he might react. Trevor didn't hesitate. He said, "Bring it to me." He got the diary, reached out to Meghan, and what happened next says a lot more than people expected. The second she found out Trevor had that diary, everything changed. Suddenly, she was ready to talk again. The same person who had completely cut him off, gone silent like he didn't exist, somehow managed to pick up the phone real fast. And Trevor? He handled it quietly, locked it down, made sure it wouldn't leak, made sure it stayed out of the spotlight. He could have cashed in big, this could have been a massive payday, but he didn't go that route. Instead, the man she once pushed aside chose to protect her anyway, which says more than people expected. Now shift back for a second before Harry, before Suits made her a recognizable face, before the palace cameras, the charity events, and that carefully shaped public image. The world she moved in looked very different, and one place kept showing up at the center of it all: Soho House. For anyone who doesn't know, Soho House isn't just another club. It's a global network of private, members-only spots, exclusive, expensive, and built for a very specific crowd. People who've been around it describe it as a tight social scene, where connections matter, where privacy is everything, and where wealthy, well-connected individuals cross paths with ambitious creatives in a setting designed to keep things quiet. Meghan's access to that scene didn't just happen on its own, it came through one key person: Marcus Anderson, the global membership director of Soho House. He was the one who brought her in, backed her, and opened those doors. That connection wasn't small, it was everything, because once she was in that circle, it connected her to opportunities that would shape what came next. Back in 2015, GQ magazine described Yacht Week, a Croatia-based party event popular with the Soho House crowd, as Sodom and Gomorrah at sea. Those are their exact words, not mine, and it gives you an idea of the kind of reputation that event had. Author Kirby Summers, who has spent years looking into these social circles, claims Meghan received an invitation to Yacht Week in 2016 the same year she started dating Harry. Now, whether she actually went is still unconfirmed, and that part matters. But here's what is confirmed by major outlets like Rolling Stone, Fox News, and Marie Claire. In 2021, Virginia Giuffre's legal team publicly stated they were considering deposing Meghan Markle as a witness in the Prince Andrew case. That detail alone added a whole new layer to the conversation. Attorney David Boies described Meghan as someone who had been a close associate of Prince Andrew and might have important knowledge. He said she would be honest and forthcoming, which can sound like a strong compliment or just very precise legal wording, depending on how you look at it. Now, let's be clear about one thing: no allegation of wrongdoing was ever made against Meghan. That part matters, and it shouldn't get twisted. But even with that said, the bigger questions never really disappeared. What did Meghan know? Who was she connected to? What kind of circles was she moving in before the palace stepped in and reshaped her public image? Those questions kept floating around. And that diary sitting in Trevor's hands was written during that exact period of her life. This was all before everything became tightly controlled, before major PR teams got involved, before old details started fading from the spotlight. And now, this same week brought another twist: a second diary reportedly being confirmed. Royal insider Kinsey Schofield mentioned it during a conversation with New York Post columnist Maureen Callahan, adding even more intrigue to a story that just keeps getting deeper. Then there's another person, still unnamed, quietly holding on to their own detailed account of time spent with Meghan. According to Kinsey Schofield, this individual could reportedly make a huge amount of money from what they have. So the real question isn't whether this person exists, it's what they're waiting for, and when they might finally speak up. And then things take an even more unexpected turn with a Jordanian ambassador, a senior diplomat with a long, publicly documented record of service to the Hashemite kingdom. This isn't just anyone making noise online. This is someone who most recently served as ambassador to the Sultanate of Oman. Back in March 2021, right after the Oprah interview made headlines, a comment appeared from a social media account that multiple investigators have said belongs to her. The message referenced Meghan and yachting in a way that caught serious attention and got people talking. Now, here's why that stood out. Diplomats at that level don't casually drop comments about members of the British royal family. The stakes are massive, and one wrong move could damage a career. It's not something people in that position usually risk unless they believe what they're saying is accurate or based on information they trust from their circles. She knew exactly what she was writing and still chose to put it down on paper anyway. That detail alone keeps people talking. Reports have suggested the palace was already aware of questions surrounding Meghan's past before the wedding even happened. According to various accounts, Harry was shown a file and ended up confronting her about it. The story goes that she became emotional, insisting the claims weren't true. Harry chose to stand by her, and just like that, the wedding moved forward without stopping. From there, a powerful public image started taking shape. Meghan was presented as a self-made multimillionaire, a humanitarian, someone polished, accomplished, and widely respected. There were also claims about her speaking multiple languages and holding dual degrees, details that some critics later questioned, pointing out inconsistencies that didn't fully line up. Still, the image held strong. The narrative was set, the spotlight stayed bright, and many of the earlier questions faded into the background as time went on. People who may have known more stayed quiet, at least for a while. And then, in the same week, another headline hit. Met Gala invitations went out, with names like Beyonce and Venus Williams attached as co-chairs, turning up the pressure and attention all over again. Nicole Kidman, Anna Wintour, and Meghan truly believed this was going to be her year. On the surface, it looked promising too. There were reports that Beyonce had reached out with personal support after the Oprah interview, and Serena Williams, Venus's sister, has been one of Meghan's most publicly mentioned friendships. So when she looked at that Met Gala co-chair list, she didn't just see big names. She saw connections, familiar faces, and what felt like a real opportunity. To her, it looked like a golden ticket waiting to be claimed. But here's where things get complicated. There's a big difference between someone being polite in public and someone genuinely having your back behind the scenes, and that line can get blurry fast. Take Paris last fall at the Balenciaga show. Reports say Meghan requested a ticket and managed to attend. While she was there, Anna Wintour reportedly came over, greeted her warmly, gave her compliments, even did the double cheek kiss. On the surface, it looked like a major moment, but moments like that don't always mean what they seem. Walking away from that interaction, it may have felt like she was fully accepted into that circle, but the reality behind the scenes can be very different. Anna Wintour has never given Meghan an American Vogue cover, and that detail hasn't gone unnoticed. Back in 2022, Meghan's team reportedly tried to secure a British Vogue cover, but the requests raised eyebrows fast. The reported demands included full editorial control, a global release across all international editions at the same time, and even a personal one-on-one Zoom with Wintour herself. That's a lot, even by industry standards. Fashion insiders later summed up the response in 4 words that quietly spread everywhere. Nobody gets that. Not even Beyoncé, who, ironically, is co-chairing the very event Meghan didn't get invited to. That contrast hit hard, because from the outside, it seemed like expectations were set at a level that didn't quite match how the industry actually works. At a certain point, it stops looking like simple ambition and starts raising questions about perception versus reality. And in a space like high fashion, that gap becomes impossible to ignore. Jeff Bezos is the lead financial sponsor of this year's Met Gala, and that detail connects back to a situation that some people brushed off as small celebrity drama, but it wasn't small at all. At Kris Jenner's 71st birthday party, hosted by Bezos and Lauren Sanchez at their Bel Air home, Harry and Meghan were in attendance. Photos from the night started popping up on social media and were later confirmed publicly by Kim and Khloe Kardashian. Then things got messy. Reports claimed Meghan and Harry's team pushed to have any photos featuring them taken down, saying there wasn't a signed photo release. But here's the twist. Sources said there was no formal photo release to begin with because it was a private event, and the Kardashians even spoke out about it. The situation quickly unraveled, and the timing made it worse. The story blew up right before Remembrance Day in the UK, shifting headlines away from more serious coverage and turning the focus onto the controversy. And here's the part people didn't miss. This all played out in Jeff Bezos' own home. Now fast forward, and he's the one helping fund the Met Gala. Invitations went out, and Montecito reportedly got nothing. Moments like that stick, and in circles like these, impressions matter more than people think. That same week, Variety's Matt Donnelly gave an interview on the Royalist podcast, and it immediately caught attention. Meghan's legal team reportedly moved quickly to respond, which only made the situation feel even more intense. During discussions about Netflix projects, there were claims about how meetings were handled behind the scenes. According to reports, when feedback came in that didn't match what Meghan agreed with, things could shift fast. If someone suggested a different direction or raised a point she hadn't signed off on, she would sometimes turn her camera off mid-meeting, no warning, no explanation, just a sudden black screen. After that, staff would reportedly be told that the Duchess had been offended, which added another layer of tension to those calls. Her legal team pushed back on that narrative, calling it misogynistic and even mentioning moments where children might enter the room unexpectedly. But according to multiple sources cited in the reports, it wasn't really about interruptions, it was described as a repeated pattern. A digital version of shutting down a conversation right in the middle of a high-stakes business meeting, with a company that had reportedly committed tens of millions to the deal. Donnelly also claimed that during these calls, Meghan would sometimes speak over Harry mid-sentence, even using a light touch on his arm as a signal for him to stop talking. Small moments that didn't go unnoticed in such high-pressure settings. Her lawyer reportedly pushed back, calling the criticism sexist, but at the same time, Netflix, the company that had poured major resources into building the entire operation, production, marketing, development, has since stepped away from the partnership. That shift didn't go unnoticed. Now the focus turns to the brand itself. The Garden Tea Bloom Box from the newly independent As Ever line is priced at $255 plus $35 for shipping, bringing the total to $290. And what's inside? 1 tin of peppermint tea, 1 jar of sage honey, and loose flowers placed inside a box, not arranged, not styled, just placed there. This was the brand many expected to compete with established lifestyle giants, and yet this is what ended up representing it. A project that has significant backing at the start, and then, quietly, that backing faded away. Still, Meghan's spokesperson told People magazine that As Ever is now ready to stand on its own. But early customer reactions raised eyebrows, some genuinely asking if the price had to be a mistake. It wasn't. And here's the part people are starting to focus on more closely. For years, Meghan has spoken about being at the center of narratives shaped by outside forces, the press, the palace, broader systems she felt were working against her. But this week feels different. Because the pressure, the criticism, and the questions aren't coming from distant institutions, they're coming from business decisions, public reactions, and situations playing out in real time right in front of everyone. These aren't palace insiders with hidden agendas. These are people from her own past, an ex-husband who knows things, an unnamed person holding onto a diary filled with details, and a Jordanian ambassador who had nothing to gain by speaking out but did it anyway. Then look at the pattern. Anna Wintour greeted her warmly, smiled, did the cheek kisses, and still no invitation followed. Jeff Bezos welcomed her into his home, and later, her name wasn't on the list. Netflix backed her with massive funding, and reports say those same executives were left dealing with tense meetings and sudden shutdowns when feedback came up. At some point, it stops looking like opposition and starts looking like consequences. That's the shift people are noticing. And the bigger picture? It's all still out there. The first diary hasn't disappeared. A second one has been mentioned. The ambassador's comments still exist. And there are ongoing claims of long-term investigations into her past that could bring even more details to light. The image was rebuilt once with serious effort, strong connections, and a lot of influence behind it. Doing that a second time? That's a whole different challenge. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts below. I want to hear what you think about all of this. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss what comes next.